Fightland really knows how to take a bad situation and make it even worse. After Episode 4 ended with Aiden being taken, Episode 5 wastes almost no time showing us what that means for Duke. His revenge mission against Kingsley was already getting out of control, but now there is something much more personal on the line. Aiden is gone, and Duke is not about to sit around and wait for somebody else to bring him back. The episode, titled I Want This, is built around that rescue mission, but what makes it work is that the action isn't the only thing happening. Underneath everything, Duke is being forced to confront the consequences of his choices, his relationship with Joy, his complicated history with Jay, and the revenge that has been driving him since he returned home. The episode opens with Duke and Jay dealing with the aftermath of the attack on Gaz. Gaz is in serious condition, and the situation immediately reminds Duke that this isn't just a game anymore. People around him are getting hurt because of the world he has chosen to enter, but Duke's attention quickly returns to Aiden. Cece receives confirmation that the Russians have taken the boy, and Joy is understandably furious. She wants answers. She wants to know why her son was targeted, and, more importantly, what Duke and the Marshals are going to do about it. This is where the emotional stakes become much clearer. Joy wanted to get away from this entire world. She wanted to take Aiden and leave the violence, the business, and the Marshall family behind. Duke couldn't walk away. Now Aiden has been taken, and Joy's worst fears are becoming reality. Duke knows he has to get Aiden back. But there is another problem. Duke doesn't know exactly how far he can trust the people around him, and that includes Jay. Jay has been Duke's closest friend throughout this entire mess. But Episode 5 gives us a much deeper look at what their friendship actually means. Duke initially tries to leave Jay behind. He doesn't want his best friend coming along for another dangerous mission. But Jay isn't having it. And eventually the two men have a confrontation that becomes one of the strongest scenes in the episode. Jay finally opens up about Calvin. He reveals that he's been carrying serious guilt over what happened to Duke's brother. Jay believes his own actions contributed to the situation surrounding Calvin's death, and that guilt has been eating away at him. Suddenly, Jay isn't just Duke's funny friend who helps him with his plans. He's another person carrying the weight of what happened. The conversation becomes emotional, and the two men end up fighting. But this isn't really about anger. It's about guilt. Jay wants Duke to hurt him because he doesn't know how to deal with what he's carrying inside. Duke, meanwhile, is trying to convince himself that he can continue down this path without losing everything. The scene works because neither man is really winning. They're both hurting. And for a show that has spent so much time building Duke's revenge story, this is an important reminder that Duke isn't the only person paying the price. Eventually, Duke and Jay move forward with the rescue. Their target is Aiden, and the Russians have taken him to a tower block. Duke goes in after him. This sequence gives us the version of Duke we've been seeing throughout the season. Focused, determined, and unwilling to stop once somebody he cares about is in danger. The difference this time is that Duke isn't simply attacking an enemy because he wants revenge. He's trying to bring a child home. That makes the mission feel different. As Duke makes his way through the building, he encounters several of the people responsible for keeping Aiden there. But the episode does something interesting with one of the Russians. Kaz isn't portrayed as simply another enemy. He has developed a connection with Aiden, and that relationship eventually matters. Kaz chooses to help the boy. He tells Aiden where he can hide, and gives him a chance to survive the chaos unfolding around him. Kaz ultimately pays the price for that decision, but his actions are important because they show that the Russian side isn't completely made up of people who think and act exactly like Sergei. There are individuals caught inside this conflict who have their own loyalties and their own limits. Eventually, Duke reaches Sergei. The confrontation between the two men has been building for several episodes, and now it finally happens. Duke makes it clear that Aiden is not negotiable. Sergei has crossed the line by taking Joy's son, and Duke is no longer interested in playing games. The confrontation ends with Duke killing Sergei. And with that, one of the biggest immediate threats to Aiden is finally gone. Duke finds a boy and gets him out. But bringing Aiden home doesn't solve everything. In fact, it creates another problem, because Duke now has to face Joy. And Joy knows exactly what kind of world Duke has been pulled into. She doesn't want Aiden growing up around this. She doesn't want Duke bringing the violence and danger back into their lives. And Duke understands that. But understanding Joy doesn't mean he knows how to give up his revenge. That's the central conflict of the entire episode. Duke has Aiden back. He has an opportunity to focus on his family. He could potentially walk away. But Kingsley is still out there. And Duke hasn't forgotten what happened to Calvin. While Duke is dealing with all of this, Kim's storyline takes another major turn. Kim is still working her investigation, but the pressure around her is increasing. Her partner Lewis confronts her, and their conversation reveals more about their complicated history. Lewis clearly feels betrayed by Kim. He reminds her of their connection and appeals to the idea of us, suggesting that there was a personal relationship between them that makes her current choices even harder for him to understand. But Kim is committed to the investigation. Unfortunately, she doesn't get much further. Her undercover operation becomes increasingly dangerous, and Lazaro eventually attacks her. Kim is thrown from a window, leaving her fate uncertain by the end of the episode. It's a major cliffhanger because Kim has been one of the few people trying to understand the Marshall operation from the inside. If she's out of the picture, Duke loses one of the people who have been quietly circling his world. Meanwhile, Sabella's relationship with Nikolai continues to become more complicated. She has been secretly involved with him despite everything happening between the Russians and the Marshalls. That's becoming increasingly dangerous because the people around her already have reasons to distrust the Russians. Sabella has been trying to balance her family responsibilities with her own choices. But the two sides are becoming harder to separate. And now she has another problem. Her family has been dragged into a conflict that is becoming increasingly difficult to contain. Then we get to the scene that changes everything. After Duke rescues Aiden, he finally gets a moment with Joy. For the first time in a while, Duke drops some of his defenses. He tells Joy how he feels. He admits that he loves her. It is one of the rare moments where Duke isn't talking about revenge, money, boxing, or Kingsley. He's talking about what he actually wants. He wants Joy. He wants Aiden. He wants a family he lost the first time around. And for a moment, it feels like Duke might finally choose that future. Then the episode pulls the rug out. Kingsley is back. After being talked about for almost the entire season like a ghost hanging over Duke's life, Kingsley finally appears. And that changes the entire direction of the story. Because Duke has spent the whole season trying to force Kingsley out of hiding. Now Kingsley is standing right in front of him. The timing couldn't be worse. Duke has just rescued Aiden. He's just told Joy that he loves her. He's finally allowing himself to imagine something beyond revenge. And then the man responsible for the pain that started this entire journey walks back into his life. That's the real meaning behind the ending. Duke finally has something he wants to protect. And Kingsley is finally back to threaten it. I Want This is therefore less about Duke winning a fight, and more about Duke realizing what he actually wants. For most of the season, Duke has said he wants revenge. But episode 5 shows us that revenge isn't the only thing he wants anymore. He wants Joy. He wants Aiden. He wants his family. The problem is that Kingsley is still standing between Duke and that future. And now the two men don't have to search for each other anymore. They're finally face to face. That makes the next chapter of Fightland much more personal. Duke came home looking for revenge. Now he has a family to protect, a friendship that has been tested, enemies closing in, and Kingsley standing right in front of him. The question isn't whether Duke can fight. We already know he can. The real question is whether he can stop revenge from destroying the very thing he's been fighting to get back. And after that final reveal, something tells me Duke's biggest fight is only beginning.